Welcome to the Root Zone Podcast with Chris Stout, owner of Stout Lawn Care. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Root Zone Podcast right now. And here's your host, Chris Stout.
We are recording.
I don't like podcasts. I don't like podcasts.
You don't listen to podcasts?
No. I don't. I think they're annoying. I listened to yours. I liked it, but
I don't listen to podcasts.
yeah, me neither.
All right, we're off to a great start. Our guest today. Hello and welcome to the Root Zone Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Stout. I am honored and thrilled to have a couple guests here today. We have three people, so we're moving on up, taking some risks here. We have Steve Pileggi, who you guys have heard from. He is my business partner. Say hello, Steve.
Hello, Chris.
That was too low. Say it again.
Hello, Chris.
There we go. And I'm honored to have Greg and Kara here. They are small business owners. I've known Kara for a very long time through high school, and I'm getting to know Greg as we speak right now. So we met a long time ago, Greg, at a beer fest, but neither of us remember it. We were a lot younger. I had a lot more hair.
It sounds like we had a good time at the beer fest.
We did.
Yeah.
We had a great time.
There you go. But no, thanks for having us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprised
I'm
that
so
we
happy to be
remembered
here.
that we remembered you.
Well, I didn't remember. I still don't remember. It's fine.
Greg
I'm
is
not
pretty
really
rememberable. Greg is. Nobody remembers me, but people remember Greg.
Also, being in the beer industry, I don't know. I've done 200 beer fests where I'm just like, what was the location? I got nothing.
It was many years.
I mean, it's
Beer
a
fest.
very easy connection, beer.
I'm going to try to hold this mic. I don't know how this is going to work. This is new territory for us, but
I love
I'm going
it.
to hold it because I feel weird. I can't make eye contact with you guys the way I'm sitting.
Yeah, you got to sit back. We got to sit back.
Lean back.
As we get into this podcast, you guys all know, you've listened to all these episodes. We're talking about service industries, small business, how people succeed, how people fail. I wanted to bring Kara and Joe on here because
Greg. You said Joe.
Kara Joe.
Kara Joe.
and
The company.
That's me.
You're the company, right?
I thought you said Kara and Joe.
Kara and Joe.
That's what I thought you
We're going to
said.
confuse our audience here in the beginning, but we'll get through it at the end. There'll be show notes with links. So, Kara, you started this skincare line how long ago?
2014 is when we started like the actual business. I had been doing it a couple years before that, just like making skincare just because I had bad skin. So I was like doing my own thing.
And she was like, giving away a bunch of her extra stuff. She was giving it to people. They're like, "Can we give you money?" She's like, "I'm already making it. No big deal."
Well, and the thing is like I was making it, right? And I was just making it because I couldn't find skincare that worked. But I would have these like batches and it was too much. So I would give it, I was like in high school. What's up? I was just
Kara,
giving
this podcast is worldwide, but just so...
Well, it's people can look it up.
Wissahickon
That's
High
how we
School
know
in
each other.
The great
Alumni.
Ambler, Pennsylvania, where you both went to school.
Yeah, all three of us went there.
A-Town.
So I was giving it to teachers, and for some reason, I was like, "Tell me what you think. You might as well if you're using it, you might as well give me feedback, right?" And I remember being like, "Why am I asking people for feedback? Like, it's not like I'm going to do anything with this." And then people were giving me feedback, and I was changing it. And then one day, my friend was like, "Your skincare is like curing my kids' acne. I don't want your Tupperware containers of it anymore." She was like, "I want to buy it from you. I want to give it away for Christmas." And so I was like, "Oh shit." Like, you know what I mean? Cause I wasn't thinking about that. And I priced everything out, and to like do everything that she wanted, I had to buy bulk, and I had to buy jars and all this stuff and making the labels for it all. I'm like, "How are we going to do this?" And Greg's like, "We're going to start a business." And I was like, "We are?" He was like, "Yeah, buy the bulk." And I was like, "Okay." And then Greg used to suffer crazy insomnia, and like one day I would wake up in the morning and he's like, "I built this thing," and like all this stuff. And he was like, "Yeah, I built you a website." He's like, "Here's your website." I'm like, "What?" So then that's just kind of how we got started. But that was back in December of 2014, I think, is when like that Christmas, my friend was like, "I want to buy stuff," and started then.
So as we were on this podcast, we talk about how a lot of people started businesses. And from what I'm gathering from you, there was no game plan. There was no business plan. There was no, hey, I need to sell 80 bars of soap. I need to sell my skincare for this amount of money. how do we get going here? It was kind of like you fell into it, right?
Well, it was interesting because Kara's a teacher, right? She's always been a teacher, but all of a sudden she's doing this amazing skincare, and it's just this whole new world for her. But the business side of it,
I knew nothing. It was bad. Like, thank God for Greg. But I started, and then I was like just at school, and I remember like having on Facebook, I had my menu of like things that you could, this was even before the website, menu of things that you could order. And like people were looking at me and they were like, you're cute, Carrie. You're starting your own business. It's cute. And I'd be like,
well, in our society, in our age group, you know, there's a lot of women out there that are side hustling, right? And so that's we'll get back into that in a little bit later, like how far I think you guys want to go or how far you're going to go with this. But there is a lot of that where like people will be like, oh, I want to buy those leggings from you, or I'm going to buy whatever from you. And so when I saw what you did, I didn't really know anything about it. I was like, cool, I want to support Kara, and I'm going to buy these soaps. I don't know if it's better for my skin. I wouldn't tell you that it is or it isn't, but I love it.
It is
more. I feel better about myself. I feel better. I smell better. I feel like, and now I just got my soap today. I was upset because last 2 weeks I've been using this pink stuff, and every time I wipe it all over my body, I'm like, God, this smells terrible. Like it smells like it was created in a lab, and it doesn't smell like lemongrass like I'm used to smelling, and it bothered me. But anyway. I guess my point is like when you were starting this, there was no game plan, there was no nothing. So you were, all right, somebody wants 2 bars. You say you have enough oil to make this, enough of this ingredient, I can make 2 jars of this. And it's $8.
And that's what I was making, such small batches. I would make like 4 jars of something, and I wasn't even making soap at that point. And then it started picking up more, and people were ordering, and then I was making 4 batches. Like I wasn't
At one
making.
point, you were like, "What do I charge?" And I was like, "Well, how much does it cost?" And you were like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Well, this is where we got to start from.
Yeah,
we got to, we don't need to work."
You needed a product cost. You need
Exactly.
to figure out your product
and
cost.
Greg knew all of this stuff,
Yeah.
So
and
then
I knew none of it.
Yeah, with business background, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well here, let me get an Excel spreadsheet going. Let me go. We're gonna do it we'll keep track of the recipes, and then that'll link to the cost, and that'll link to where we're getting it.
Yep.
And I just built like a Chauncey QuickBooks based in Excel. You know what I mean?
And that,
which is still what we use, really.
well, but it was also like you had to input everything, and like I hated doing the books, and the books were very like. Oh,
math.
Like, yeah, math, and just like keeping track of everything. And then I just hated doing that. And so I was only making like 4 jars of stuff, right? And then I would make 4 jars of stuff, and then I would make 4 jars of stuff. And one day I was like freaked out. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I got to quit. Like, I hate this. Like, I want to do it, but like, I got to quit. And Craig's like, why don't you make like 15 jars of everything in one batch? And I'm like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. Like,
and I'm like, okay, stop mocking me saying this is such a good idea. And she's like, no, really, I never thought of that.
Like,
I'm
that's how.
Yes, you did.
No, I
What do you
really
mean?
didn't. Like, that's how, like, I'm a teacher, and I didn't think, like,
Well,
I had no idea.
It's very similar to how everybody's brain works, okay? Because I compare Greg to Steve, okay? So Steve is very analytical, very on point with everything, like likes things organized, has a spreadsheet for everything. Like when I hired Steve, there was 164 messages in our inbox, and about 5 hours later, there was 0. He had them categorized. He had everything, perfect. And that's just his brain, and that's why that's why we're a great partnership. And I'm seeing that from both of you. Carrie, you're more of the free spirit. You're like, oh, let's make this. Let's just make it. We'll just try it and see what happens. And then Greg comes along and goes, well, we still have to, we can't do this for free. We have to figure out how we're going to make some money. How did that transition go? Like, okay, now you have a price point. How much do we want to make? Now you go into inventory questions and like, what products do we want to offer?
So, I mean, it's a great question because organic, homemade in quotes,
Organic's a terrible word, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But it wasn't back then. This was like people are doing, like when you said like a lot of women have side hustles, like a lot of women didn't
men
really
and women,
have,
we'll call men.
yeah, but like it has blown up, right? And probably because of COVID, but a lot of people weren't doing this stuff. Like there were,
and the companies that had the products that we now have, and that started this thing 10 years ago, were so absurdly expensive, and it was this very high-end
Designer brand, right?
designer brand,
Yes.
niche market, just boutique-y.
stuff I couldn't afford that stuff.
So we really, I mean,
The Whole Foods effect, basically.
so we kind of had a mission statement where it was, we're not going to make something that we wouldn't be able to afford in our current lifestyle, in our current how we're doing it, and we're willing to make less money because people should be using higher quality, better for you, without having to pay this absurd amount.
Yeah.
But the reason we could do that was because both of us had full-time jobs. Really, we were capping the amount we were going to sell.
We were choking
weren't-
this thing for years. We've been choking.
Yeah, so it
it.
wasn't like we need to sell at least this. It was like, we can only sell this because there's only so much time that we
Yeah,
have.
how much you can do, right?
Exactly. And Kara was like, I can't be overwhelmed. I'm like, cool. So make what we can make. And then it allowed us to grow very organically, very slowly, picking the right partners, picking the right places we wanted to be, because we were never at this crunch of like, we need, and this is my sales background forever, was just hit this, grow. And this is not the case at all.
Yeah.
So it was nice. It was
You set that all
less
up.
pressure, and we don't have kids. Like we have a little bit more time than a lot of people we know.
Kara has off in the summers. That helps.
Yeah, and but it allowed us to really just grow at the pace we wanted to. And then there's been times where we went, okay,
Push a little.
let's push down the gas pedal a
Yeah.
little bit here, or you know what, let's really go after a new product that we want to do. And we know it's going to take us a year, but we got to do 20 test batches, and we got to go to our test market people, and we got to do things. But it wasn't like we need to release this March 1st of 2023, and it was never like that. It was like, it's got to be right. We can take our time with it.
And
Let's
I think
go.
a lot of people are listening. I hope
So many
the
people
select
are
few
listening.
the select few that are listening, I appreciate you got to episode whatever number this is going to be. It's very relatable for me and how me and Steve run our business. Is sustainable. We want to be environmentally friendly, environmentally facing. And what you said about making a little less money by doing it the right way, I think scares a lot of people in business, especially small business, right? Because we're taught to like you say, sell at the highest mark, make the largest margins, do this, do that. When I started this, that was my old company. No crux to them. They're doing a great job, whatever they do. That was their business model. When I started this, I wanted to look at it like, why am I it's not about the race for me. It's not the rat race for me. It's about growing this business organically with good customers that understand how we want to do our spray our lawns, do the right way. And if they're not on board for that, then they don't need to be on board for that. But I think a lot of small businesses don't understand that it's okay to make less money if you're doing the right thing.
Quality,
it scares
right?
a
Quality
scares a
over
lot of
quantity
people.
sometimes.
Big time.
I think that's also interesting, like the right customers, because isn't that what you said? The
Yeah.
right customers, because so many people in the beginning, like I remember my mom took my skincare to like her friends, and she was like, everybody wants more fragrance. And I was like, they don't have to buy my stuff. That's not my market.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's fine. And so, but I'm not putting fragrance in my stuff. Like,
It's the same. It's very similar. And I know, like, you guys are beekeepers. We're lawn guys. We're fertilizer guys, right? But I don't look at fertilizing like a lot of other true greens, like the true greens, the lawn doctors, all them. They're spray and go. That's how they think about churn and burn. That's all they want. We look at it more on the environmental side. We want to make good soil. We want to produce good soil. We want to produce a good environment. And we want to do it sustainably by not putting down the herbicides, the pesticides that everyone else is doing. So when you think about ingredients, it's the same concept. You were saying something, I think fulvic acid came out of your mouth for something.
Oxalic acid?
Maybe. I don't know which one it was, but I was like, And it got me thinking like right away, like I wanted to look up that term because I wanted to know what that acid was that you were using. And it was something that you were planting. So I was like even more interested. And I was like, what's he putting down? But anyway, long story short, I was kind of like inspired by listening to you guys, like, man, how can I make my business more sustainable, better for the environment? And I think making less money, back to your point, is okay with me as long as we're growing, everybody's paid, you know, we're doing the right things.
We said in the very beginning, Kara and I said, if we make the right decisions that we're comfortable with, one after the other, money's gonna come, the customers are gonna be there. But if we try to chase after these customers, the whole concept of chasing something, it means it's running from you. You know, so we said, let's not try to chase business. Let's not try to, you know, we could have at that point gone, okay, Kara's mom, let's put fragrance in this one product and be able to sell it to your friends. But it goes against our core beliefs that you shouldn't be putting that on your body to begin with. You know what I mean? But we could have chased the money and gone down that route. We never were going to do that. It was always make the right decision that lines up with like our kind of ethos, and it's going to get there. And I mean, Kara has built a stable of people that trust her. If Kara says, I use this product, people go, I want to use that product. I trust what she's doing, how she approaches things. And it's like, yeah. But it's hard to put that in like the capitalist ideology.
I guess that's the point. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. Is it's like so hard. It's such a balancing act of like not being a good business. Just have like I see so many companies just running and chasing all this and just chasing the money when it's so much easier to do it organically and with people you love and you trust, and you know you have your group of people. Well, I have a lawn care group of customers that will say the same thing.
And by the
right?
way, word of mouth for both of us.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, how much of your business is so-and-so did it, and then they say, oh, this is who worked on my lawn. Look how great this is. You should use our guy.
And
Boom.
so many people, I'm like, oh, you use Chris? Like, so many people use you. And that's interesting because, like, the Wissahickon community for me is basically how this whole thing grew.
Oh, yeah. Kara had, like, a storefront being a teacher.
Like,
all
school,
the other teachers at school were buying her products.
And then it grew in Ambler.
Yeah.
And then I got into Ambler Farmers Market and, like, grew in it. But, like, Ambler has been my base of people.
It has to start at home. Everything has to start at home before it, you know.
And I'm going to say, Steve, I don't know. I think we grew up in a really special area. I really do. And I think the Wissahickon, how small Wissahickon was and the community that we had between the three towns that were around were a huge influence in how I grew too. Because I remember Dan, Steve's cousin or Steve's brother-in-law, he designed our website. And we launched everything like on a Monday or Tuesday. And he's like, Chris, I've launched like 5 websites. I've never seen a response that I've seen from a 20-mile radius around when you launched. I was like, I don't know what to tell you, but that's like inspiring. And I'm like, cool. Then we have Mike Weed. Group, like we're all.
You do his like whole neighborhood, right?
We do his whole, so Mike Weed signed on, and then all of a sudden his neighbor Lori across the street signed on, and then Frank down 4 doors down, and then now we literally have 7 houses in a little tiny area. But it goes to show that I'm going to say this, and if you're a good person, you're gonna reap the rewards of being a good person, whether that's through business or referrals or whatever. Karma, absolutely.
You know, it's funny. I'm like thinking about what you do. When you're good at what you do, you almost aren't needed, right?
Correct.
And Kara Jo, a lot of it is people with these health problems that are showing in their skin, and a lot of skincare products are treating the symptom, or they're
treating the symptom.
But not fixing. It's like replacing your natural body's response. So
it's like if you have a back problem, taking Advil every single day.
Right, it's going to get rid of the pain.
Yeah,
but it's not getting to the source. Exactly. Great analogy. And there's people that are like, I don't need to use the product anymore because it cleared me up and my skin's fixing itself. You know, and it's like, great.
I had this one little girl.
But refer us to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Spread the word a little bit.
I think people do. I had this one little girl a farmer's market, and she came up to me, and it was in COVID, and she had a mask on, and she was like 13, and she had like really bad acne. And so I gave her my one mask, and she left, and she came back the next month, and she was like beaming, and she takes down her mask, and I'm like, who's this kid? Like, and she's like,
She was like excited to take her mask off to show her face.
Her acne was all gone in 1 month because she was using it every day. Like, I was like, you probably shouldn't have done it that much. She was like, I look beautiful. But I was like, can you imagine being 13, having horrible acne, and then in a month it's better? Like, how much better your life is from that? Yeah. Her and her mom bought like 6 jars of the thing, and then I haven't ever seen them again. Yeah.
And the other kind of analogy I was thinking about is it's hard to be like that better, that more eco-friendly, that more, because you just get compared to everybody else
every day,
and it's like it's not the same thing.
No.
I joked. So vegans don't. There's a split in the vegan community of whether honey is vegan friendly, and yes, it's you could call it a byproduct of. And we're gonna have like a whole episode on our podcast, Mind Your Hives, about this
because it's farmed.
They call it an animal byproduct. I don't view it as an animal byproduct. I view it as like these bees are actually like working for us to like make this thing. But
I feel like it's almost like a fruit bearing tree.
Yeah, that's what they do.
The exact analogy that I love to use is bees are like brewers, right? They go and they gather the sugar source.
How cliche.
I know exactly, but it's so works.
Tell us what you do for your full-time job.
I work in the beer industry. Anyway, so these bees go and they gather the nectar source, right? They gather the sugar. That's to a brewer that's like making wort. And then they introduce their own enzymes, and they store it in their honey stomach. It's like a satchel that exists in the bee's body, and they bring the nectar back into their hive. They store it in a little cell, right? That's like a beer vat. It's like a tank. Then they introduce their own enzymes to it. It's like a brewer adding yeast. And then a chemical reaction occurs that turns this nectar into honey, just like the chemical reaction of yeast turning that wort into beer. And then when it's ready, they store it. They cap it. They literally put a wax capping over the cell when it becomes honey, just like a brewer would cap a bottle. And fortunately for us, the bees don't need all that they create. Yeah. We take the excess. We leave them everything they need for the winter, but we're able to take the excess that you have to, or else the hive's going to have issues,
I have a
right?
question, a beekeeping question then.
Keep going.
So you see a lot of animals that either forage or they produce their own food. They produce enough. Like they have 12 mouths to feed. They produce enough food for 12 mouths. Why do bees, and is this across honeybees, across the bee community, do they all do that? And what is the reason for doing all of that? Right?
So in nature, essentially when the bees filled up the amount that they could, the hive would split. And they would literally split in two and create a whole separate hive that would move a swarm. I'm sure you guys see it just being out and about, see swarms all the time, right?
Well, I listen to Mind Your Hive podcast.
Oh, yeah,
and I've learned all about swarms, and I can't wait to run upon one.
Nice plug. So in nature, the cavities are smaller that they have in trees that they live in anyway, so they can only fill it up a certain amount, and they will end up splitting and going off on their own, right? So we keep them in these man-made boxes that are to the right size that they want, but we're able to continually add boxes to grow. The reason that they don't just stop foraging is because they're doing the job that nature needs. They're pollinating. They're making these plants put out nectar and put out pollen, which creates more plants, which is a healthier environment, which then, decomposes and creates soil. Like, what the bees, and not just honeybees, but all pollinators really are doing is creating the food source that they need, but also all the other bugs and all the other plants and the mycelium and everything needs to grow. They're creating nature.
Also,
so if they stopped because they're not egotistical, they don't stop when they've got their fill. They work until the sun goes down and it's too cold for them to work again.
Yeah, they're
Imagine if we had
workhorses.
bees for workers.
The hive mind.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that humans have a hard time understanding at all.
It's almost
The concept is difficult.
So in my podcast, we talk a lot about culture at your work. You know.
Oh my gosh,
the
yes.
C word. It's like I hate it. I hate it so much, and it's just always talked about like teamwork. We can do this. We can do that. It's so great, and it's all BS. It's all
it's
bullshit.
just talking.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's about knowing your hive. It's about knowing the people that you work with and that you work for, or whatever the case may be. Like Steve and I pride ourselves on knowing our guys, and it kind of seems like if you know your guys and you're well organized.
If you know what motivates somebody, then
We absolutely
Such a good point. Well, also the honeybees collect all the honey because they need it to survive the winter. So they don't hibernate. They're alive in the hive. And it's interesting because talking about like community and just like working together is the bees that are collecting the honey, it's not for them. It's for the winter bees to get through the winter. So like other like wasps, I don't know about bumblebees. I guess bumblebees kind of store honey. It depends on the type of bumblebee, but like yellow jackets and different wasps, the whole colony doesn't survive, just the queen survives. So they don't need to store up all this food because she's inseminated and she just has to survive the winter, and then in the spring she pops everything out.
Do they have like a cluster of soldiers that stick with her to keep her warm, or is she just on her own? She's like a beast.
Oh no,
mean,
a wasp. She's
Yeah.
by herself.
Yeah. They just build the paper nest or, whatever that insulates her so much.
yeah.
Or they bury her in the ground. She goes super deep in the ground. So all right, so I started with the whole vegans thing and I went off on that whole brewer's tangent, but here was the connection I was trying to make, right? These vegans go, honey's bad because these beekeepers, they're killing their bees and they're using pesticides and it's not healthy, and they're stealing all the honey and they're replacing it with not as healthy of a sugar source and blah, 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 blah. And I go, okay, here's the deal. You're talking about bad commercial beekeepers.
Yes.
But that's like me saying I'm not going to eat vegetables because all vegetables are farmed with pesticides and all vegetables are GMO and all the things that I don't want to ingest. And I'm discounting all the beautiful organic regenerative farms that we work with and that we buy food from.
It's an easy way out.
It's
just
like
an easy excuse.
And if I met you and walked away and Kara said to me, "Oh yeah, he's got a lawn care company," I'd go like,
Green deserts.
Green deserts. You've heard me talk about it. But then when you dive deeper, you start realizing, oh wait, there can be lawn care that isn't that. There can be farms that aren't that. There can be beekeepers that aren't that. Then it goes back to the whole thing. It starts local. It starts with people that can trust you. And
it really like the whole thing started. I don't know when I tried to be, because I'm the creator of our program, what we're putting on the lawns. It was years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I was like, we're just spraying to spray. Like I was like, the grass is green in the spring and fall. You of course a little fertilizer here and there will make it greener. But what is greener? Like what is the line of green? Like I've gone to these Penn State or Rutgers field days where they show you what a turf type tall fescue looks like today and what the new modified one looks like now. And it's like, dude, who in their right mind could tell the difference between plot A and plot B? And I looked at that, I was like, well, why are we putting down, at the time we were putting down 2.5, 3 pounds of nitrogen per thousand square feet per year, right? And when you're thinking about that, I try to make the analogy for people that don't know, is think about bushels of corn. In the early 30s, the 20s, you could just plant corn and it would yield this many bushels. Well, we're up to 10, 15, 20 pounds of fertilizer to get that same yield of corn today, because the soil is
Dead.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's dead.
There's some
nothing.
crazy stat that's
that's nuts.
What they say, there's 8 years of fresh topsoil still remaining as the farming cycles go through.
Wait, what does that mean?
This is where the whole regenerative farm,
Yeah, this
Correct.
is scary.
everything comes from.
So I told you to watch this documentary. I guess you didn't. Kiss the Ground.
I forgot. Okay.
It's
Kiss
an
the Ground.
amazing
Got it.
documentary. But
She
it's,
watched Kiss the Girls. She's like, why does he
Why
want
does
Morgan
He's like
Freeman?
really obsessed with
we've
this.
only seen each other 3 times in the last 3 years. But it really just sheds a light on the over commercialization of farming and how they till. They expose raw soil 3 times a year, 2.5 times a year, whatever you want to call it, and it's ruining the quality of soil. Where you're talking about the other farming, what do they call the other way of farming, where you got cattle moving here and
Just commercial.
No,
farming?
it's-
Oh.
No, regenerative or
regenerative.
I mean, there's no-till farming that's all
Correct.
connected with that. Yeah.
And so when I saw that documentary and listened, I just wanted to be like, we don't need to put 3 pounds of nitrogen down. Let's try 2. And I was like, I can't tell the difference. Hey, Grady, one of my technicians, like 350 lawns every 2 months he sprays. Can you tell a difference this year to the greenness of last year? He's like, nope. I was like, Steve, you think we can get away with 1.5 pounds of nitrogen this year? And our goal is to get down as low as we possibly can. And what are we substituting for that nitrogen though? Like nitrogen, you get nitrogen source forever. It's usually urea in our business. But what can we put down? Humic acids, fulvic acids, limestone, things that are feeding the soil and feeding the microbes and feeding the soil. Guess what? I think that's why we've been so successful, is because our lawns look maybe not the greenest. Maybe
They look really good, your
they're
lawns.
just thicker. Lindsay Ernest, a friend
Yeah.
of ours, she got a pool put in. And I always, when I do these big projects or we do these big projects, I always get concerned about like bare ground, rocks, what can we actually get to grow here? And what we've realized is the best thing we can do is beat up the ground, put a ton of seed down, put mushroom soil down or peat moss or organic matter, not so much fertilizer and starter fertilizer and granulars all over the place. It's not about that. It's about 2 or 3 things: soil to seed contact, water, and sunlight.
Well, it's funny. How many of these huge skincare companies are like, yeah, use our product, and then you're relying on their product because your skin stops doing its job. How many of these lawn care companies are just replacing the job that the mycelium and the decomposition and everything is supposed to be doing? But guess what? You need them the next year. You need them the year after
we
that.
We call it steroids in our business. You're feeding the lawn steroids. So if you can, it's the same. I'm trying to relate this to a lot of guys in our industry. Is like, think about the corn. If you keep on feeding grass nitrogen, it's that sugar fix, right? And then what? Then when you stop, there goes that plant. It's relying on that at that point. So if we're putting other things, and so we put a little bit of nitrogen in the beginning of the year because the grass is growing and the plant loves it. And at the end of the year, same concept. But in the middle of the year, it's like, what else can we put in the soil?
I was going to say, like clover that's replacing the nitrogen, or there's all these other plants that are putting nitrogen back in the soil.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a lot of what Kara heads up doing our herb farm. We're growing the same herbs that we use in our products. And a lot of it is, okay, this plant is taking this from the soil. We need to replace it. Mm-hmm. So there's a cover crop then, or there's a compost mixture that needs to go on top. I mean, yeah.
Well, it's also like you talk about, basically you're just doing what happens when people don't involve themselves in all of this stuff, right? It's like this ancient, this is what the leaves fall, you leave it.
Imagine that.
Right? So, but it's the same thing that I'm doing is like a lot of the stuff that I'm using is like, if you will, ancient wisdom. Like it's this, like Cleopatra did
honey's
this
good
stuff.
for your throat.
Yeah, and like all this, I'm studying herbalism to also help inside the body, but like then I'm realizing, a lot of the stuff that I'm using in my products is just people used to know this stuff. People used to do this stuff, So getting in tap with just both of us in different ways, like nature's natural processes.
Yeah.
I would say there's some crazy stat. It's like per acre of lawn.
Oh, I have it for you.
People use compared to farmers. It's like twice as much pesticides going in the ground to try to keep lawns up than farmers are using, and that's including all like the commercial farmers, which just
I don't know about that one. I don't know. I think so. a lot of the runoff issues. So anything that's caused our waterways to go south.
All right, hold on. I got it.
Okay.
This is nuts. I was off. Columbia University. Homeowners use 10 times the amount of pesticide and fertilizer per acre on their lawns as farmers do on their crops.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% because
So
homeowners
we're
don't know
the
the
problem.
difference.
Yeah, and also it's harder to grow grass.
I'll give you a perfect example
Grass is
of
hard to grow.
why homeowners are dangerous and why rookie beekeepers are dangerous, right?
Preach, brother.
Because you go to Home Depot and you buy a bag of fertilizer and it says this fertilizer covers 10,000 square feet. And you get to your condo association and you have 6,000 square feet. And you put 10,000 square feet of product down.
And they are not even reading the label anyway, though.
No one reads the label.
Yeah,
Nobody
people don't read
reads labels.
labels.
So there's so many issues in our industry. It's hard for us to battle all the stigma that comes along with us. And a lot of it's driven by big farms. And a lot of it's driven by big lawn fertilizer companies. Because if there's 15 little guys around here, I know 5 of them that are doing it really good and the right way. And
I'm honestly surprised it would be a third of them. you know?
It's tough. It's tough to find. It's tough to find because the almighty dollar drives a lot of people's minds and souls and direction, and it's sad. But it's a tough thing. This is why I want to have you guys on here, and maybe this conversation. I don't want to come off as scientists, and we're all not.
Why, I'm a
scientists
scientist.
here, and we're Kara's the closest one. To
Yeah, I'm an English teacher.
But just to do right and think about what you're doing to the environment, and we can end that conversation on that. And I think that we at Stout Lawn Care respect what you guys do, and we try to do our best to respect the environment. So if that any help.
No, and it's
to you
nice
guys.
to be able to have somebody to go, hey, this is who I know.
Yeah,
and we trust what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we do that with everything. Like, whether it's the food we're eating or the restaurants we're going to or the booze we're drinking, it's
Yeah.
like we trust the people making it. We know what they're about.
Yeah.
And we feel good about it.
Yeah.
Well, and like, I know money is important, right? Like, we need money, but it is fulfilling when you are taking care of the people around you, you're taking care of the environment around you, you're making things better. And like,
I mean, Pledgy said it. Karma too, man. Karma exists when you're bettering everybody around you. I feel like it ends up coming back, you know,
and
twofold.
that's also how we've grown as a business, is just by taking care of like the bees and then the environment around the bees, and you know, this community that has supported us so much, taking care of the community and showing up for them. So it's really just been like this cyclical thing.
It's still hard though. Like, how do you get that word out there? We talked about just marketing and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, how do you translate that thing to people that don't know you?
Well, this is man, I'm getting good at this podcast.
You're
Are
pro.
you kidding me? No, so that's my next question is, since your niche kind of small, you have your group, you're organic, you've grown it to where you can hold it, you can run it and be successful. What is the next step? You got this beautiful property you just purchased, bigger land. Do you see yourselves taking this to say, I guess my question is, you have a plot of land, you're trying to make X product, you have this much acreage, you're going to be able to make this amount of product. Have you guys thought about saying, where are we going to source these products from? Who can we get better products from or safer products? Like, if you need citronella oil, you can't plant 45 acres of citronella. How does that, where is this go? Where's the next, because that's a big step, right?
Yeah, just to talk about the ingredient part, I use a really good wholesaler, but like olive oil, I used to get, I think the last, like I get them in like 5-gallon buckets, right? The last 5-gallon bucket of olive oil, I think it was like just like $150. I went to buy it the other day,
crazy expensive now.
$300. I was like, I'm not buying olive oil. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I'll do sunflower oil. And there's like, I just found out about like a local sunflower farm that sells sunflower oil. So can I source it from a local business? And the people that we just, like neighbors that are right around the corner are an herb farm. So the herbs that I don't grow, I get from her. So like trying to keep it local, and then like, so I can't keep coconut oil local, right? But then just people talking about, and this is like terrifying and I hope we never see it, but like the global market shutting down, right? Like if and when that happens in the Carajo skincare and bee farm lifespan, what do we do? And then it's like, okay, can I get local tallow and make soap out of local tallow and make products out of that and like change? So I'm already kind of thinking that and trying to even get more local.
But it starts with like having that mission statement and saying, this is what what we're willing to use. You know, fair trade, organic, whatever the buzzwords are, but you have to go, this is our mission statement. This is how we're going to roll. And then, all right, we got to figure it out. But we know that we're not just going to go to giant food store and grab whatever off the, you know.
So that really, I mean, it really comes down to who you know then, right? And who does what, right?
Yeah, that's a big part of it, making those connections.
How do you make those connections, right?
Well, the herb farmer around the corner from me when I moved in, I was like, "Hi, I'm Kara. You should be my friend. Like, I think we would really like each other."
You drove by and smelled mint from like 3 miles away. Kara's like, "That one, someone grows mint over there."
I'm like, "Hi," and then being at farmers markets, like,
meet a lot of people there.
Yeah, and you meet like farmers, like badass farmers, and like there's this huge, amazing taproot farm, organic farm in Shoemakersville, and now they sell our honey in their CSA, you know what I mean? So like making those connections, like markets are a big way that we've done that. Just like networking with people.
Yeah, but it's I mean, it's one of the more difficult things that we have to deal with. Just sourcing. Yeah.
It's gotta be because you're living by it. Like I can source my products from a multitude of different places and they all have the same stuff. So I'm not, the only thing I'm worried about is a world market crash and then products go through the roof.
And we'll go, we're having a hard time sourcing this. Is it something we can grow? Does it make sense to grow it? Does it make sense to stop growing this because we have a finite amount of room and start growing double this?
So when does this stop being a passion project then? Like
as soon as I can make enough money to quit my job. Yeah, that's it.
and
then I'm working toward that. Yeah.
Blunt statement. I fucking love it. Like, cause that's what people need to hear is that where that's what it comes down to?
100%. Well, so Greg, I mean, we have 50 beehives, right? So
50,
and we're going to have more next year. And that's, you can't have
and we turn people down.
Yeah.
Say, sorry, I can't sell you honey. Like, I know we can grow that side and we still have plenty of room, but.
So Greg, I don't know, like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, was like, we need more time to beekeep. Like he was doing sales for Forest and Maine and he's like, I'm not going to do sales anymore. I'm going to beekeep and, run this. So he's working for us full time. Plus we're also working at Forest and Maine a little bit still. So like we already have half of us doing that, Yeah.
The transition has begun.
Yeah.
And I remember going, Kara, I'm sorry. You got to keep working.
Yeah. And then I wanted to quit my job and he was like, I just quit my job. You can't quit. And I was like, but I want to quit my job. But
she was also making considerably amount more money than I was.
Well, and then I was like,
I should thank my wife for sponsoring Stout Lawn Care and the Root Zone podcast. She
thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. This is the only reason we're here today. I appreciate it.
But then I was like, okay. So then, COVID schools, that was awful, right? Like it was so bad. And I was just like, and then all this bad stuff happened to us. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. But then I had to. So then I turned in and I was like, what do I care about? Like, what am I passionate about?
Yeah.
And that's actually the reason I started this in the first place. Cause teaching's fine, but it's like, it's like, I'm working with high school kids. Like it's not, it can be not rewarding, right? Especially when you're in your 20s and early 30s and everybody just trashes you, right? All the time. So I started this because I wanted to be fulfilled in a way that I wasn't being fulfilled. And then I was like, okay, what am I passionate about? And a year and a half ago, I was like, plants. I love plants. And then I started studying herbalism, and like I'm in this program to study herbalism. And so that's where I want to grow it. I want to, because skin, you can help, but problems with skin is really like an internal thing, right? And I also,
It's your body fighting.
Yeah.
itself.
Everyone reacts different to different things. too,
exactly.
right?
And like, I already have my yoga teacher training, and I already have like, I'm certified to teach like meditation. So I have all of these things, right? And then I'm like, and I just want to like help people. And then it was like, all right, the last piece of this is really how can I internally help people with these plants that like I'm already using to help people's skin. So what I really want to do is grow and source from these. We have amazing herbal farmers like in Southeast Pennsylvania. There's like really amazing people doing awesome farming. So grow and source from them and like make tinctures and stuff that help just like, you know, a little bit at a time, and start there. And then, you know, hey, Chris, you got this, whatever, like, let's work on it. And I can maybe use plants to help you feel better. And so like when you own your own business, a lot of times you can't just sell skincare. You have to sell skincare and honey and candles and beeswax wraps and tea.
That's a dangerous game too, though, because if you get too broad, then you're bringing in all these products for minimal results. And I'm sure, as Greg, you're the business side. You can see the returns on products, and you're saying, hey, we get 1,000 people buying this product, so we need to put a little bit more focus into that product.
And you can't compete with yourself. You can't make too many products that like people don't know.
And you're in to make money. Right. So if you see that your bug control, which I love, is working, I guess that's my question. What are you guys going to start pushing this? Are you going to go with a marketing plan, like, you know, pay Google AdWords and do that side of it? Or,
well, you know what's interesting is like people love my bug repellent, right?
I love it.
Weaver's Way Co-op, they carry almost like all of our stuff in Ambler, and they bought just a couple bug repellents. They sold 0 bug repellents because part of it is I can sell the bug repellent. If I'm standing in front of you and I tell you about the bug repellent and we talk about it, you want it and you buy it, and then you realize that you like it. It's just sitting on the shelf and you're like, what is this weird oil? I'm not buying this oil. Yeah. And so I find that like we need to be we're still at the level like we need to be having conversations about people or with people. And
but
like,
it's also choosing the right partners
that
can have that conversation, and then you let the word of mouth. But it's not just us cold calling grocery chains.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the business model.
No.
That was my business model when I worked for a giant brewery back in the day. You know, it was sell to anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for our type of business. Kara mentioned, it's interesting. My kind of motivation for this whole thing is I've been burnt working for other people. I came to the conclusion where it's just like, hey, this doesn't work. Like, worked for my white collar sales business world, worked selling telecommunications equipment to the government, you know, bad, gross.
Yeah.
Get in, work for a big brewery, they get bought, just, gross.
Yeah.
And it was like, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not good at working for other people.
Yeah.
We need, and I'm like, what are we, Kara, you're pretty good at this skincare thing. You know what? Let's grow this. Let's turn this into a thing. Like, I need that for myself. Kara has this love of plants. She has this love of helping other people.
You're the definition of an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And it turned into I love nature and everything now too.
It
turned into it.
It did.
But it was inside you then. Obviously, you must have loved it somehow. You know,
I brought it out of them.
It must have been that.
Oh yeah, big time.
The Carajo effect.
And like when I'm like, if I'm working with people with herbalism, it wouldn't be part of the Carajo skincare line. It would be like, oh, you need this, I can make you this, and then I can just sell you this plant medicine. Do you know what I mean? So it's like overall, we talk about like it being like a Carajo wellness brand. So that's what, and I just want to.
But brand's a great word, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you guys have a great brand.
Thank you.
By the way, like I love. Your website, whose logo?
Hold on. I built the new website, okay? So
well, the old website was pretty good.
It was amazing, but
Who did the logo?
We got it made
Yeah, we sourced it from
like 99 Designs, like way back. It works different now, but
yeah. Basically, we had a bunch of artists bid on it, but
Yep.
like, you know, these individual artists bid on it, sent some rough drafts. We went with somebody, and then we spent time, you know, working with them more.
Oh, that's cool.
And now we have our friend Jenna does, you know, anything that we're looking for. We're like, hey, we have an artist now, so like we're gonna stick with this person.
and my brother does some stuff for us, helps us out, like puts some stuff together. He's a graphic designer too, so.
So Chris, would you like 20-year-old Chris, if you were like go back and go like, hey, you're gonna care about like people putting shit in their in the ground, you know, would
No.
you like look at yourself and go, who are you?
Listen, I didn't know what I wanted to do until about 10 years ago, I
It-
think. I really did. And that's
Yeah.
the God's honest truth.
Yeah, Crystal's a mess.
I was a mess. I mean, I was a poor student. I was, you know, D's get degrees, and then I didn't get a degree, dropped out of college. I was really into the restaurant business for a long time, and I love the restaurant business. I love the grind of it and the fun of it. And then, you know, you have a wife and kids, and
Gets old real quick.
everything changes real fast. And I didn't think I was gonna want to make people's grass green, but I kind of fell into it, and kind of how you fell into loving nature more than you thought you were going to. I think I
Big
fell
time.
into loving grass more than I thought I was going to. And it turned, you know, I look back years and years and years ago. My mom's single mom, single parent. Summer times I would go to the nursery. Like my mom worked at a nursery her whole.
Which nursery did you work at?
It was over in. Listen, I don't think it even exists anymore. It's right outside of Ambler, where the Broad Axe Tavern is.
Yeah.
So if you're passing the Broad Axe Tavern on your right hand side, your next light. It's just like discreet
yeah, on
little
that
light.
corner.
On the left hand side, there's a huge farm. They just put a development there. Well, didn't just probably 10 years ago, but there used to be a big farm. And I used to go visit her, and I loved it. And I always knew I loved plants. I loved when I bought my first house, when I had my first apartment, I was always planting. I love plants. So I knew that was a passion. And then when I jumped into the lawn care side of it, I was like, this is fun. I'm like getting results. And I think that's where it all stemmed from. And then I was always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So
You know what's great about your guys' job is you get to be outside all the time.
That in
the
itself is
best.
so healthy.
oh my God.
I'm so jealous of that.
We lose weight every year. We get vitamin D. I love it. I love it.
You know what I just learned about vitamin D? This is so interesting. Your skin continues to make vitamin D for like 12 hours after you've been outside. So like, I mean, you probably can't do this because you're probably stinky and gross after a days of work. But like, if you're outside and you're not stinky or gross, if you could shower in the morning, that's better because you literally wash it off when you get in the shower.
I had Lyme disease recently, and our herbalist said to me, he's like, you need to like go outside and like sit in the midday sun for 15 minutes and just absorb it. And he goes, and then don't shower for like 2 days.
Greg's like, that's what I do anyway.
Sweet.
Man,
No problem.
should I crack a cold one around 3 o'clock, Doc? Is that what you're telling me to do?
Basically.
So we talk about small business. You guys growing this. You're obviously married. How does that play into it? I mean, I don't think my wife does a little bit of payroll for us because she knows that side of it, but she's not in the day to day. She doesn't worry about what I'm doing, what I'm spending money on. How does that work when you get home? Like, you guys got 5 jobs between the two of you. You know, you're always busy. Does that create a little bit of stress? Who's going out to tend the bees? Who's doing this? Who's, you know?
Well, it's interesting because in the beginning of this, I realized, and I don't know if I've ever even talked to Greg about this, but like in the beginning, it was clear. Can you get me?
I'm gonna get
Yeah, Chris is getting us beers. We didn't have defined roles, right? So like I was doing this thing and then Greg would try to do this thing and I'd be like, don't step on me. And then, so
That's a recipe for disaster.
yeah,
right there.
it just was. And I realized pretty quickly, like, okay, Greg is good at certain things and I am good at certain things and I need to do, this is what I do. Thanks. And this is what Greg does. And we did that pretty quickly. But once we did that, we had to do that.
I mean, it honestly though, it sounds cheesy, but it really comes down to communication because
It makes it easier. We couldn't do this without each other. Like,
Well, and defined roles, I think, right? Like if there's not, hey, you're doing this, right? You're doing, like Chris and I, we both have a very like type A personality, but I feel like, Chris does his thing, I do my thing, and we do that together well. Right?
Yeah, and
I
you're
see
like-
the same thing with you guys.
and it makes like an awesome power team.
Yeah, exactly.
But we both, now it's like a little bit more, like we both beekeep and like, but like, it just depends on like who's where, who can do what, who's doing something else, and the other person needs to beekeep.
I mean, there was a point where I was like,
Bee
hey, Kara,
theory. It's the bee. The hot, like who can get it done.
I was like, hey, here's the thing though, like we both can't be the beekeeper. Like
Oh
one
yeah,
person,
this was a fight in the
I
beginning.
was like,
This was
one
like a big
person
thing.
needs to run point because it's too many cooks in the kitchen type scenario where it could be like, hey, this needs to get done. But if we're both separately coming to these decisions on how to do it really got jumbled.
I did not like that. And I was like, I want to be the beekeeper. And then finally I let it go. But then it's like,
So who's the official beekeeper?
well, I mean, Greg's like full-time job is like beekeeping, but like also this summer, so we had to like, we bought this house like, and had to gut it and do all these things, right? And Greg was at the house doing skilled labor, and I did a huge amount of the beekeeping.
Oh, yeah.
This summer. So it's also like, I don't know. Now we've gotten also to the point where Greg has the final say. Like sometimes I'll call and be like, yo, this is what's going on. I'm about to make a decision, but like, what do you think? And be like, oh, that's what I was going to do. Or like, okay, I'll do that instead, whatever. But we have been doing this for so long. And I think we talk about it so much on the podcast and stuff. And whatever. We're so entrenched in it together that we make
We
the
think
same
the same.
decisions
Yeah, we're thinking
anyway.
the same.
Sorry, that took me a second to get that to the
But
point.
like Kara will leave me a note in the morning or call me in the middle of the morning and say, hey, I need you to
Cut
label.
and stamp soap and bevel it.
I need you to fill these. I need you to label this. I need, and it'll be a list of Kara Joe skincare
I'm a good taskmaster.
stuff that I need to do.
That's that teacher in you.
And yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'll forget what she said. And then, 20 minutes later, I'll text her and say, what was it again that you asked me to do?
So I got to write it down.
Yeah. So we've come up with little systems and stuff, but it's just communication of like, I need this from you. And then we've launched
it's
products.
the non-communication too, though, because I think you guys have probably been doing this rat race for a while now. It's like, oh, Kara's not going to be home tonight. I got to go out and do this. Or Greg's not going to be home tonight. I got to go out and do this. It's like kind of where me and Steve are at. Like we have our roles set up, and like, but when it's spring or it's fall, we get humping. We need to support each other, and however we can do it, we get it done.
And the decisions we're making on the business side often are, one of the big factors is who has the ability to take this on. It's okay, we're going to launch this new propolis, restore and protect propolis face balm. Okay, but we need to have propolis from the beehives. We need to have beeswax. So somebody needs to be cleaning propolis, rendering beeswax. Like, jobs keep growing, and we can't say, all right, we're going to launch this product until we figure out, okay, A, we have the ability to do this, B, not that we have the ability, I spoke fucked up there. We have the ingredients, and then we also have the ability to do what needs to get done. And that's tough. Like, there's things that we would both like to do that probably just aren't there yet.
And the non-communication is like, sometimes I'll just come home from school and there's beekeeping to do. And I just like look at Greg. He's like, I'm going to go out and like, I don't even know. Like, I'm not doing it today. Like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I want to play with the goats.
Yeah.
And you need to beekeep, So it just like kind of depends.
Has it caused any tension in the relationship, the growth of the business?
I mean, there was a point where I said to her, I was like, I can't be the cold call salesperson.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been sales for 15 years of my career, and I just said, I have to get away from sales. I can't be that person.
Yeah.
And Kara has become this little salesperson.
But I'm not like a cold call salesperson.
No, but like, I mean, you reach
I
out to
guess
people
I am.
sometimes and stuff.
Yeah,
but
and I like it. Well, and it's also Greg
Well,
is
it's not like 10 years ago. You're like, dialing for dollars, as my boy Derek would say. Like, you're not just, you got a list and it's just like,
Well, when
you're
when
cold
you're
calling.
passionate about something, right? It's easy to talk about, and people see that, right? They feel your passion towards it, and it makes it an easy sale. I almost feel like, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I want to go do it. And I want to talk about this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time, so we talked about how we saw you at a beer festival, right? And so I used to go to beer festivals and work with Greg behind the thing and just have so much fun. And for years, I would just go. I would to every single beer fest.
Yeah,
And I remember my first farmer's market, I was so nervous and I set up and I'm there and then people start coming and I was like, oh, this is like a beer fest. It's exactly the same thing. I had my elevator pitch, just which beer it is, let me tell you about this brewery. And I was so that was I was just in it and able to do all that stuff. And I was oh, this is fun.
Well, if you know something and you're passionate about it, it's easy to talk about.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I mean, my wife tells me all the time, stop talking about grass. No one wants to hear about your grass anymore. And so it's the way it is. If you're passionate about something, it's easy to talk about. And, the knowledge that you, it's pretty cool. I try to tell all my guys is to self-educate and to keep educating as you grow as a person, as a human. It doesn't have to be about grass, doesn't have to be about anything, but just keep learning. And I see it from you guys, Greg, I was listening to your podcast and something about, I think it was what you were talking about, the P word, propolis. And it was just you discovering this and being fascinated by it, and now you're doing something with it. And that's kind of what we do. We go to these conventions and we talk to these fertilizer reps hey, we have this humic product that has biochar, it's a great product for introducing carbon in the soil. And it's oh, let me learn about that. Let me before I buy 2 pallets of it, let me see what that's going to do to the soil. What's it? How can I use that instead of using this? And it's just a cool. I think everything correlates a little bit, but it's just cool that I can talk to beekeepers and I spray pesticides and we can not be on the same page, but we can have a civil conversation about what's good for everybody. I think that's pretty cool.
But to your point about learning too, we're always trying to learn what's better, right? How can we do things better? We started a bug program and we're not using pesticides. We're using repellent, right? Essential based oil repellents, right? Which is better for the environment, better for everything else. So.
And you guys listen to your podcast again. I was listening, you said you guys bought and used tick kills.
Yeah.
So for years, that's what we use, tick kills. Super expensive.
Oh yeah, I mean we're buying 4 ounces of it.
Yes.
A little bit different.
Literally when I want a 55-gallon drum of it. But it's, we buy a product called Tick and Skeeter Deleter. It's made, I think I showed you a label. It's, what is it, Steve? Citronella.
Yeah, it's thyme.
And that stuff really
lemongrass,
works. It does such a killer job.
Our customers love it.
Yeah, it's
The
phenomenal.
smell of it, everything about it.
Yeah.
And we're revamping our website, and the product we get, Brian down in Jersey, he's the owner of Tick and Skeeter Deleter. We're gonna put this product on our website because, we're not after something that has a residual effect for mosquitoes for 60 days. That's bad for the environment. But if you put this repellent down and we get a bad thunderstorm, you can put it down again. You can buy it from us. You can buy it from Brian. So there's things that we look at as our program, like how can we evolve as better stewards of the environment while still getting results. And that's the one thing I want to, as friendly as we are right now, I still have to apply a herbicide and I still have to apply a pesticide to get the people what they want. But you look at Lindsay Ernest's backyard compared to what it would have been with crabgrass, a invasive species, it would have been a nightmare back there, So there's a give and take in everything, and I'm really excited that you guys had this conversation with us.
And I mean, it's not about being perfect. I think so many people think it's you got to be perfect, you got to do everything right, and it's not like that. And one of our beekeeper teachers said one time to us, and I thought it was so good, and I love it. You got to live in the world that you're given, right? So it's not about dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. And one thing also, there's this Paul Nicklin, I think. He's like this phenomenal photographer for the Nat Geo. And he goes out and he takes all of these pictures of nature and stuff. And he was like, if people really want to make a change and you want to see people like do better for the environment and be a steward for the environment, you can't do it through fear. You can't be like, we're all going to die and the earth's going to burn and everybody's like, we're all doomed. You have to do it through, you have to have people love the environment and love and be fascinated. And the more you learn about things,
be educated.
And like, that's how you're like, you know what? I want to take better care of this because I love it, because this is awesome. And look at this. This is amazing.
Yeah. It's when and we're lucky that we live in the time we live in where we can readily get information so quickly.
Oh, that's so true.
It's good and bad.
Freaking
We could have a whole podcast on how we used to look stuff up back in the day, right?
Yeah.
You had to go to the library and look for K, and
then copy it down on a piece of
But
paper.
if you disagreed about something, right, you had an argument, right? You couldn't just Google the answer real quick.
But I mean, beekeeping wise, there wasn't like the YouTube, all the videos that exist now 10 years ago when we started. I mean, it's unreal. We have Mind Your Hives beekeeping on YouTube where people are like, "Oh, thank you so much. Nobody else is talking about this," and I'm like, I mean, 10 years ago, literally nobody was talking about any of this.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, but it's also dangerous because there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's good to see that. I don't know. I hope in our green industry we have a lot of advocates on our side looking to help spread the word about the products that we can use that are safer, that are bee safe, and they just banned a lot of products in Jersey that are neonicotinoids, which are good things.
That's music to our ears as
Absolutely. And as like I said, we're trying to get results and we want to move away from it, but there's all these really awesome products that are really starting to come out that are coming off patent that'll allow us to financially put it into our program where they're bee safe and there's not long. It's a great product. It's coming off pretty soon. Hopefully, beginning of 2025, we'll start using it, and it's a really cool product, and everybody's pretty excited about it. So
Cool.
Thank you again for having us.
Yeah, and thank you for your support this whole time. You're just the best.
Listen, that means a lot from you, Kara, especially since the line of work that you guys do. You could write me off and as a green desert kind of guy or a
No, you too long to
The
write you
world
off.
is not so black and white.
Yeah.
There's, like Kara said, we live in the world we're given, or we're whatever you just said.
Live in the world you're given, and just do the best you can, and do it a little at a time. You don't need to. We got here a little at a time.
Yeah.
We used to drink like a gallon of raw milk each, like back in the day, and eat a loaf of bread every day, and like, you know what I mean?
I still do that.
Oh, it's so delicious.
That's why,
I miss those days. But
real quick, no one's going to care about this, but I have to ask it. You guys are at the Food Fest.
Sunday.
I have VIP tickets. I plan to buy all the cheeses, all the breads that I can find.
There are
Hook me
VIP. You get a swag bag.
I do get a swag bag. Yeah, I signed up for that immediately.
Nice.
I love a good T-shirt. Good T-shirt giveaway. I'm a sucker. Oh, your tickets are $10 or $42. I'll take the $42.
And I'll
I'm
get
getting a
the
T-shirt.
T-shirt.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Well, I got to give them credit. What a good idea. So as a VIP, you get this swag bag, but you have to go to the vendors and get
Pick it up.
the item.
I don't know if you know
So
that,
it's not
but-
just you're given a bag with stuff in it. You actually have to go. They go, yeah, you get like 10 items, but you have to go get them.
Oh, to each vendor and
Yeah.
get them.
Which, from a vendor's
I like it.
standpoint, we love that because you're getting your people.
Do
They're
I
coming to you.
get a VIP pack from Cara Jo Skincare?
Well, you have to. You're going to show up and you're going to pick which one you want. But you can come by and I'll give you the VIP.
It's a cool
Just
concept.
come to my table. I'll
'Cause
give
the
it
whole
to
Well, I
you.
got the kids.
VIP
Kids are coming. We're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
I
The whole
love this
VIP
event.
thing, I mean, it's funny we talk about beer fests. They're like less and less worth it.
Yeah.
And it was cool
Like,
to hear
don't
these
spend
people.
the money, Chris.
No, this is one
This is
that
a good
I
one.
give them credit.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good job.
Well, anyway, listen. It's been I don't know. Well, we've gone long enough. I really appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, it's so fun.
It was a lot of fun. I hope this continues to grow. I hope the people that are in the green industry listen to these two fine people, Greg and Kara. They really know their stuff, and they're stewards of the environment. And I think as an industry, we can get better at it.
Yeah, what's the podcast again?
Podcast is Mind Your Hives Beekeeping, and the website is karajoeskincare.com. You can get to the podcast through there too, but you can just Google Mind Your Hives.
There you go. This will be in the show notes. I don't know how to do that yet, but my producer does, so we're good. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Root Zone podcast. Like, subscribe, and leave a 5-star rating so we can continue to grow. Thanks again to Kara and Greg. Visit karajoeskincare.com and the Kara Joe Bee Farm on Facebook and Instagram. And check out Mind Your Hives Beekeeping on YouTube. And of course, you can always visit Chris and his team at stoutlawncare.com. That's STOUT lawncare.com.